Deep Dark History. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for deeper and true stories. In 1978, deep within the jungles of Guyana, over 900 people would die in one of the most disturbing events in modern history. This was Jonestown, a settlement built on promises of equality, safety, and a better future. But behind its hopeful image hid something far more sinister, something no one on the outside fully understood until it was too late. The man behind it all was Jim Jones, a charismatic leader who began as a preacher preaching unity and racial equality. To many, he was a savior. To others, a manipulator. His followers trusted him completely, leaving their homes and lives behind to follow him into the unknown, believing they were building a utopia. Jonestown was supposed to be a paradise. Isolated from the outside world, it gave Jones total control. People worked long hours, lived under strict rules, and were constantly monitored. Over time, the dream began to crack. Punishments grew harsher, and fear replaced hope in the hearts of many residents. Jones became increasingly paranoid. He believed enemies were everywhere: governments, traitors, even his own followers. Armed guards surrounded the compound. Loudspeakers blasted his voice day and night, reminding everyone that escape was impossible and loyalty was everything. The people were trapped, both physically and mentally. Concern from the outside world began to grow. Families of Jonestown members begged for answers. Eventually, U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan decided to visit the settlement himself. What he found would shock the world and set in motion a chain of events that would end in unimaginable tragedy. At first, Jonestown appeared peaceful during Ryan's visit. Residents smiled, performed songs, and insisted everything was fine. But behind the scenes, fear was building. Some members secretly passed notes to Ryan, begging for help. They wanted to leave, but leaving Jonestown was far more dangerous than anyone realized. As Ryan prepared to leave with defectors, tension exploded. At a nearby airstrip, gunmen loyal to Jones opened fire. Ryan and several others were killed. It was a turning point, one that sealed the fate of everyone still inside Jonestown. There was no going back after this moment. Back in Jonestown, Jim Jones gathered his followers. He told them their enemies would come, that suffering was inevitable. Then he offered what he called a revolutionary act, a mass suicide. Some believed him, others were terrified. But in that moment, resistance meant death anyway. A deadly drink was prepared laced with cyanide. Mothers gave it to their children first. The sounds of panic, crying, and confusion filled the air. Armed guards ensured no one escaped. What happened next unfolded quickly, turning Jonestown into a place of unimaginable horror. By the end, over 900 people were dead, including hundreds of children. It remains one of the largest mass deaths in modern history. Jonestown became a symbol of manipulation, blind faith, and control. But the most chilling part? Many of those people truly believed they were doing the right thing. In the aftermath, investigators struggled to understand how such a tragedy could happen. How did so many people follow one man to their deaths? Survivors described years of psychological control, fear, isolation, and constant manipulation that slowly broke their sense of reality and replaced it with absolute obedience. Jim Jones didn't create control overnight. He built it step by step, first with trust, then dependency, and finally fear. He convinced his followers that the outside world was evil and dangerous. Over time, Jonestown became their entire reality, leaving them with nowhere else to turn. One of the darkest methods Jones used was something called White Nights. These were rehearsals for mass death. Followers were told to drink liquid they believed was poisoned. It wasn't, at least not at first, but it tested their loyalty, preparing them mentally for the final command. Children in Jonestown grew up knowing nothing else. They trusted Jones as a father figure. When the final moment came, they had no choice, no understanding of what was happening. This is one of the most heartbreaking aspects of Jonestown. So many innocent lives lost without ever having a chance. Not everyone agreed with Jones in the end. Some tried to resist, to escape, to fight back. But armed guards surrounded the area, and punishment for disobedience was severe. In a place built on fear, even thinking about leaving could be dangerous. The phrase, "drinking the Kool-Aid," became widely known after Jonestown, symbolizing blind obedience. But the reality is far more tragic. Many didn't choose to die. They were forced, coerced, or had no way out. The phrase oversimplifies a deeply complex and horrifying event. When authorities finally arrived, the scene was devastating. Bodies lay everywhere, silent evidence of what had happened. It shocked the entire world and raised serious questions about cults, leadership, and how easily people can be influenced under the right conditions. The Jonestown tragedy forced governments and societies to rethink how they deal with extremist groups. It exposed the dangers of unchecked power and psychological manipulation. Even today, it serves as a warning about how control can slowly take over lives without people realizing it. Experts later studied Jonestown to understand cult behavior. They found patterns: charismatic leaders, isolation, control of information, and emotional manipulation. These elements are still seen in dangerous groups today, making Jonestown not just history, but an ongoing lesson. Jonestown is more than a tragedy. It's a chilling reminder of how vulnerable people can be when hope turns into dependence. It shows how trust, when placed in the wrong hands, can lead to devastating consequences. And it leaves one haunting question. Could something like this happen again? Jim Jones himself was found dead among his followers, but not from the poison. He died from a gunshot wound, raising questions that still linger today. Did he choose his own fate, or was it decided for him? Even in death, the man who controlled so many remained surrounded by mystery. Recordings recovered from Jonestown reveal the final moments. Known as the death tape, it captures Jones calmly instructing his followers as chaos unfolds around him. Voices of fear, confusion, and desperation can be heard, making it one of the most haunting audio records in history. Some survivors lived because they were away from Jonestown that day. Others managed to hide or escape into the jungle. Their testimonies would later help the world understand what truly happened. But for many, the trauma of that day never faded. The tragedy also exposed how warning signs had been missed. Reports of abuse, control, and fear had surfaced before, but they were not fully acted upon. It showed how dangerous it can be when early warnings are ignored or underestimated. Media coverage after the event spread rapidly across the globe. Images and stories from Jonestown shocked millions. It became a defining moment in how society views cults and extreme belief systems, leaving a permanent mark on public consciousness. Psychologists began asking a difficult question. Could ordinary people fall into something like this? The answer was unsettling. Under the right conditions, fear, isolation, and strong leadership, almost anyone could be vulnerable to manipulation. Jonestown wasn't just about one man's control. It was also about human need. The need to belong, to feel safe, to believe in something better. These desires, when exploited, can lead people into situations they never imagined. Today, Jonestown remains one of the clearest examples of how dangerous unchecked influence can be. It's studied in psychology, history, and criminal behavior as a case of extreme control and its devastating consequences. Even decades later, the story of Jonestown continues to disturb and fascinate people. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about trust, authority, and how easily reality can be shaped by those in power. In the end, Jonestown is not just a story of death. It's a warning, a reminder to question, to think critically, and to recognize the signs of manipulation before it's too late. Because history has shown us, darkness doesn't always look dangerous at first.